Hello. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to Chabot College. We appreciate your attendance here this afternoon. My name is Dionisia Ramos. I'm the Director of Public Relations, Marketing, and Government Relations for the Chabot Las Positas Community College District, and I will be moderating today's forum. We are delighted to have with us Dr. Claire Oliveros. She's joining us today for the Chabot President Finalist Forum. Before we formally welcome Dr. Oliveros, let me take a minute to review what to expect with today's forum. Today's forum is scheduled for 60 minutes. We'll have approximately 18 minutes for general questions posed by the moderator and another 25 minutes for audience questions. The candidate will have 4 to 5 minutes to provide brief opening remarks. There are 4 general questions that have been prepared to help facilitate the session, and I will ask each question and allow the candidate to respond. There are microphones at either end of the room. After we conclude the general question portion of the forum, audience members may line up behind the microphone to ask a question. We'll alternate on either side of the room. I welcome you to start by sharing your name, your role with the district or in the community, and please limit your question to 30 seconds and just one question per person. Please be courteous in the manner of asking questions, and 5 minutes before the end of the session, we will conclude audience questions and invite the candidate to provide brief closing remarks. Audience members will have the opportunity to provide feedback through online feedback forms after the forum. Links will be provided on the President Search webpage. You can also access them with the QR codes that are posted at the entrance to the room. Information on accessing the recorded forum and the feedback forms will be provided via email after the forums at the latest by tomorrow morning. The feedback forms will be compiled and shared with the Chancellor to be included in his deliberation. We want to thank you again for your presence here, and with that, we will begin today's forum. I want to formally welcome Dr. Claire Oliveros. Dr. Oliveros, it is our pleasure to invite you to provide a brief opening statement. You have 5 minutes allotted for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Ramos. Hello, can you hear me? Okay. Can you see me? This microphone. I'm going to just bring it down a little bit. Good afternoon. My name is Claire Oliveros. I'm so thrilled and honored to be here today as one of the candidates for your next president at Chabot College. Good afternoon, Chabot College community. Thank you for taking time out to be here today. In my opening remarks, I just want to share a little bit about myself. I'm the eldest daughter of Lita Oliveros and only daughter of Susan Marcus. I have family in Manila, Philippines, Oregon, and California. Of the 3 generations of women in my family on both sides of my father and mother, I'm the first to graduate high school and go on to college. As a first-generation college student and graduate, it was with the support of caring faculty, staff, peers, and administrators that helped me stay in school. That set me on a path and a trajectory for a long career in higher ed, in particular in student affairs, student services, and institutional equity and diversity and inclusion. I'm so thrilled to be standing here before you today and share a little bit more about my professional experience and educational background. I have over 28 years of higher education experience at both 2- and 4-year institutions that are situated in rural, urban, and suburban communities. The longest time I've had at a community college has been in Portland, Oregon, where I grew up. I had an opportunity to work for my neighborhood community college as a part-time academic advisor. And with the support of graduating with honors with support from the TRIO Student Support Services program, I pursued a master's in education with a focus on adult continuing education, and then worked full-time after getting a taste of working in retention and student success. I became the founding coordinator of the Multicultural Center at Portland Community College's largest campus, the Sylvania campus. and served there for nearly 10 years while also going to school full-time to pursue a doctorate in education with a focus on community college leadership. And it was there in that time that I had an opportunity to study the community college system, have a deeper understanding of California, Oregon, and Washington, and issues that impact community colleges nationwide, and pursued a path in administration. So within my 28 years of higher education, 13 have been in executive leadership roles with a focus on student access, student success, equity, and retention. Most recently, I've served for 4 years in the Sacramento area in 2 different capacities as Vice President of Student Services and Enrollment Management, helping to usher us through remote operations and returning to full student services, and also more recently as Vice President of Institutional Equity and Research and Planning. I'm the inaugural VP for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Social Justice, and in this role, I've helped to braid together a division that has a focus on student equity and engagement, and college planning, and accreditation and institutional effectiveness. And I believe it's this culmination of my own experience, my own lived experience as a first-generation woman of color attending a rural university in Oregon, and also my experience, 28 years in higher education, both in advising, coordinating. I've also experienced teaching. I taught women's studies and career and guidance courses for nearly 10 years, and then more recently as an executive leader that I have the wisdom, skills, expertise, leadership acumen, and expertise to be able to serve in this next role as Chabot president, Chabot College president with the Las Positas District, Chabot Las Positas District. I'm nervous because I'm in the theater, and growing up, I always got so giddy coming to the theater. So, of course, I would be giddy now in front of new friends talking about myself. So I'm going to end my opening remarks with, I cannot wait to engage in the discussion and answer some questions from the esteemed audience, and then participate in closing remarks. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're going to now move to the first of the 4 prepared questions. The president of Chabot College is expected to be the voice of the institution's mission, values, concerns, and aspirations. What do you think are key components of successful internal and external communication strategies? How would you prioritize different constituencies?
Thank you. I may ask you to repeat the question. The first part, what would I prioritize? Well, for me, the roadmap are the mission-critical priorities that you all have advanced and set forth as a college, within your constituency groups, and up toward executive leadership, and across to the sister college and within the district. So I would take a look at the mission-critical priorities, and I know right now, in my research and learning more about this amazing college community and your strategic planning process, the areas of focus are access, student success, resource allocation development, community engagement, and also completion and graduation. So I would center those and work within constituency groups to prioritize our progress, take a look at where we've been, where we are, and where we would like to go, and work across colleges with the sibling college as well as with district leadership and the chancellor to be able to advance our objectives and strategies, and then reevaluate and assess as needed to be able to pivot or make adjustments where necessary related to the mission-critical priorities. Thank you. Was part of the question to give examples too?
I can reread the question
thank
if you'd
you.
like.
Sure.
The president of Chabot College is expected to be the voice of the institution's mission, values, concerns, and aspirations. What do you think are key components of successful internal and external communication strategies? How would you prioritize different constituencies?
Thank you so much. First and foremost, it's important to communicate and be available, visible, and open to engaging with all constituency groups, internal and external, before engaging in prioritizing mission-critical objectives and efforts. And so some examples would be for regular one-on-one ongoing meetings, to be able to amplify the mission, vision, and values of Chabot College in the meetings that I am in, and also uplift and advance the work of the vice presidents and executive leadership, deans, directors, and managers to support your good work at the college community as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Recognizing that we all have some limitations, what characteristics or qualities might hamper or enhance your effectiveness as president? It is said that we learn from our mistakes. Can you mention an honest mistake that taught you an important lesson and how you confronted the consequences of that mistake?
Thank you. It's an important question. Learning in public, I'm a fan of, particularly because in these remote times, early on in the remote environment we were in, we were learning lots of things in public: technology, utilization of Zoom, converting classes to remote through Canvas. So I think in my experience as vice president during that time, particularly early on in 2020, one of the areas that I made a gaffe in was over-communicating and communicating often because of the level of uncertainty. And I did that in an effort to try to ease the uncertainty and the angst with not knowing how long we were going to be in the pandemic, or how long we were going to be remote, how long the pandemic was going to last, layered with the impact our staff, faculty, students, and administrators, families were having as well on remote operations and the uncertainty of a pandemic. So I learned quickly from there that it's okay to exercise all types of communication, email, text if it's an emergency, regular meetings, and meetings that have substance so that we're able to engage in conversation, dialogue, and decision-making, and that at times over-communicating is okay in an emergency situation, but then also being thoughtful and mindful of introducing information in bite-sized pieces so that we can address and take it step by step to address some bigger issue that we aren't aware of. And in this case, it was what hours of operation we should host, what would be our service model for admissions, financial aid, and at the same time, we were also packing and moving different facilities, and so being able to stage and prioritize what needs to happen first, and always being open to feedback and correction and evaluation if I missed an opportunity to share or hear feedback. And so listening for understanding in particular, and then being available for revisions and feedback, and developing a communication plan together with our areas so that people have the information when they need it and that it's consistent and accurate and just in time. Thank you.
Thank you. How do you envision working to make higher education more accessible and affordable for all students, regardless of their background or financial situation?
Well, I think it's really important to think about that right now as we're looking to increase enrollment and increase our outreach efforts, particularly in our communities of color that have been historically underserved or marginalized from access to higher education. And I think we have opportunities to take a look at financial aid and further enhance packages for students. There's opportunities for also to take a look at promise dollars and make sure that our students are maximizing greatest access to tuition benefits or scholarship benefits, and then think about ways we can also reduce the cost of textbooks and help with utilizing open educational resources and pursuing opportunities for zero-cost or low-cost textbooks as a way to offset the full cost of attending Chabot College and attending California community colleges. I think there's an opportunity as president to also work across the college, across colleges and within the district in support of enhancing foundation support and fundraising, while also looking at opportunities for grant development and helping build capacity with grant writing and opportunities for partnerships with business and industry for scholarships. And one example is we have a recent partnership in the Sacramento County area with our municipality, with SMUD, the municipality there, to help identify students who are going into engineering or pre-engineering and are eligible for scholarships. It's one way to offset the cost of tuition and hidden costs of college with transportation, childcare, books, et cetera. And so I think there's opportunities to take a look at our onboarding process to ensure students are maximizing their eligibility for financial aid and for Pell, for Promise dollars, and then to be able to make more opportunities available for tuition, while looking at partnerships to also alleviate the costs of textbooks and hidden costs of attending college, and looking at opportunities for employment and internships that are paid with neighboring business and industry that are just here on the boulevard or closer into downtown Hayward, that gives students opportunity to work and go to school and guarantee an opportunity for employment once they finish all of their credits or a certain number of credits. I think that my experience at both 2-year and 4-year help also identify opportunities for partnerships that help with career pathways and also offset the cost of rising costs of tuition and hidden expenses of college. Thanks.
Thank you. How do you plan to stay informed about the evolving needs and expectations of students, faculty, classified professionals, administrators, and the broader higher education landscape?
Thank you. Throughout my career, it's important. It has been important and intentional for me to engage with campus community members, the local area leaders, regional and national. So I'm thinking about my experience as a higher ed practitioner and educator. It's important to stay current in the issues that are impacting our college community. Also pay attention to professional development and leadership opportunities for my own development to stay current. That's through national organizations, local organizations, and regional organizations. And then staying in touch here locally and being visible and present and participating in student senate meetings, coming around on campus for clubs and activity fairs. One of the greatest gifts of returning to our campus environment is being able to be in spaces where we are, where you are, where students are, where faculty, staff, and administrators are, and where the community come onto campus to be able to engage and be in community and develop relationships and get to know what some of your interests, needs, concerns, and hopes and aspirations are for the college or for your classroom or for your department, division, and services. I think it's important for me to walk around campus, to be present, to have open drop-in office hours or formally structured office hours. I did do that now and did that as a Vice President of Student Services and as Vice President of Institutional Equity. I host regular coffee chats and time to be able to just have a conversation about things that may be pressing or on the horizon. And I would also invite and encourage and hope that the same relationship building would happen across colleges with my counterpart at Las Positas and also with the chancellor and chancellor's exec, the district office, and in working with our various boards and advisory councils. So again, I think a presence, a visibility, attending and participating in your events and activities and being visible with students and participating in their events and activities also helps me have a sense of where we also want to enhance professional development and leadership development opportunities to support employees' career development and students' career development, while also working to strengthen our relationships in the community and internally. So I think those are just a few examples. And then there are organizations that I'm currently a part of, like ACA, which is the Association of administrators and community college administrators in California always get tongue-tied with the acronyms, but many of you know are involved with ACCA. And then we also have our coalition of organizations that support administrators and professionals and employees of color like APAHI, AMEND, and Colegas. The Chief Student Services Officer Council is an organization I've been a part of while I've been here in California. And then nationally, I've stayed connected to the American Association of Community Colleges, and I've also stayed connected with my home place of student affairs through NASPA. And so, given my experience and network on the West Coast and regionally here in California and nationally, I would also want to know other organizations that Chabot College is a part of and want to support you in continuing membership and connections so that we're also staying engaged and innovative in our fields and looking to bring best practices and high impact practices to our classroom environments and our campus environments that are coming out of national and local and regional organizations. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Oliveros. We will now transition to questions from the audience. I invite you to carefully make your way to the microphone. We'll start on this side, and we'll alternate. A reminder that we'd like for you to ask your question in under 30 seconds, just one question per person, and we have 25 minutes for this section of the forum. Please go ahead.
Hello, thank you so much for coming. My name is Cynthia Gordon da Cruz, and I'm the Faculty Coordinator of Institutional Research. So I'd like if you could please give an example of how you have used data or research to inform decision-making in one of your past roles or your current role. And if you remember, please tell us a little bit about the data and how that influenced the decision that you made.
Thank you so much for the question. Nice to meet you. Well, data is part of my everyday in this current role, and it has been in my previous roles, where it's important for me to be current, looking at the college dashboard for enrollment and disaggregating that by demographics, and looking at racial equity data. So what that means in particular is the equity gap or the opportunity gap between groups of students, Black, Latinx, Latino, Latina, or our Asian Pacific Islander students. And at my institution in our district, we also break out by Filipino student ethnicity. So I think one example of the ways in which I use it regularly is paying attention to our dashboard data, which is real time, drawn down by our student database nightly. And then more operationally, I use data as we look at our strategic plan and our targets for helping to close opportunity gaps between students who are most impacted. And in particular, at my college, it's Black and Latinx students. And by looking at the data, one campaign that we were able to develop was a focus on targets that helped to close opportunity gaps in enrollment, comprehensive educational plans, enrollment in transfer level English and math, as well as retention rates and course completion. Also guided by the Vision for Success out of the State Chancellor's Office. So our metrics are in alignment with the State Chancellor's Office metrics. So that's one example of being able to set targets, looking at the current disaggregated data and seeing if there's a gap of 20% between Black and white students, for example, in enrollment of 15 or more, 12 to 15 units, then what are the steps we want to take to help close the gap to ensure that more of our Black students are enrolling in their first year in 15 units to maximize their financial aid and to maximize their award eligibility and have a greater chance of finishing in 2 years and taking English and math transfer level courses. That's one example. Also in my recent experience, the data helps inform, our institutional data helps inform our eligibility for grants. And I'm currently at a Hispanic serving institution and an Asian American Native Pacific Islander institution. It's part and parcel why Chabot College is of interest to me and I'm inspired to be here is because you are also an HSI and have high numbers of students of color and Asian Pacific Islander students as well in particular, and Black and Latinx and Native American students. And being able to take a look at the data and see that we've met the milestone for enrollment for HSI, we know it's upwards to 25%, for Anapisi, similarly 25%. We're eligible, and we're eligible to apply and successfully receive a 5-year grant for Anapisi after receiving the HSI. So the data directly informs our ability to participate and apply for designations that then offer us an opportunity to develop an institution to be serving communities that have been historically marginalized or underrepresented, and then seek funding to build capacity to be a role model for how to better serve HSI or how to better serve Latinx students and Asian Pacific Islander students towards pathways for completion and transferring on to colleges and universities. So those are two examples of how data is in my day-to-day. And also as Vice President, I look at enrollment data in general, take a look at our enrollment before, during, and after census date to see how we're doing in particular courses, because that also helps inform discussions at the executive level and district level for the offering of types of classes, the types of professional development that is needed. I oversee the Center for Professional Development in addition to institutional effectiveness, and both HSI and Anapisi grants, along with our Center for Basic Needs and Housing Resources, and our new Center for Inclusion and Belonging. So data really informs how we got where we are today, and also helps pay attention to what the needs are and how we can best respond as a division, as a department, as an office, and as a college, given the data. And then there's, in addition to the quantitative data, there's also qualitative data that is important. And so part of being out and about and connecting with student organizations and students in the Commons area or in the bookstore is also to get a sense too of how our students are doing and hear anecdotally, while also following up with campus climate survey data and focus groups to really get a better sense of how our students are. And then building on participatory shared governance and utilizing Student Senate in our PGC process to ensure that their student voices, when we're taking a look at data, they can help us determine what data is missing, and also bring a perspective that we just aren't able to lift off of the paper. Thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm Dr. Robert Yes I'm from the math department, and I have a question about AB 1705. There are California community colleges that have included in their implementation of AB 1705 the removal of pre-transfer credit math courses from their course offerings. Some have also do not offer non-credit courses. How would you advise a student after starting at a transfer level math course that has not been successful, even with tutoring, in support classes or co-requisite classes? The student feels that by repeating the transfer level course would be frustrating, and that they would need to have a more solid foundation, say due to COVID learning or inadequate high school learning, but their institution does not offer the foundational pre-transfer class that they need. And without a for-credit course available, they would have trouble meeting the financial aid eligibility without overburdening their class load. What would be their path forward?
What would be the student's path forward who needs a 4-unit math class?
A for-credit.
For-credit math
Yes.
class to complete. I think first I would ask more questions. It's a great question. We are in an environment that we don't have, we're looking at multiple measures of assessment, and we're also looking at opportunities to help students through math based on their educational goal and degree. So I think the question is, what would I do? What is the student's options?
How would you advise the student?
How would I advise a student? Well, in my role as president, I would work very closely with the vice president of student services and the dean who oversees counseling, and come up together with fact-finding, more information, and devise a plan. My guess is this student is not alone, and there might be other students who may benefit from some high-touch support in a particular math. And I would enlist the support of the Vice President of Student Services, the Dean who oversees counseling faculty, and also our Vice President of Academic Services, and the Dean who oversees math and sciences, and possibly a faculty member who may know this student firsthand, who had the student in their class, and pull together a team and explore and discuss and gather more information to figure out together a pathway forward for this particular student, and find out from our data if there may be other students who may have a similar experience, and this may then be an opportunity for us to think of something dynamic and innovative to support a cohort model of students who may be in a similar position. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sadie Ashraf. I'm the interim dean of counseling, and
Hi.
congratulations on your finalist. My question for you is, awareness of mental health concerns have increased on college campuses. What is your vision for ensuring we're meeting the mental health needs and promoting a culture of well-being and increasing a sense of belonging?
Yes, such an important, all of the questions are so important and timely. You know, first, I think it's important to know what we have. Are we using Timely MD? Do we have telehealth? Have we adopted Ayana, for example? These are recent, you know, just during the time of being remote operations, the closures, recent health and wellness services and support. So I would want to know what we have. And then once I have the information about what we have, also help to support and enhance ways for our students to be able to have easy access to counseling services, to crisis counseling, to mental health support, how they want it, when they want it, and where they want it. And right now, what the data is telling us about our student engagement is remote is preferred because it's flexible and allows our students to do other parts of their lives, like childcare and parenting, co-parenting, work. It cuts down on commute. So which all add to stress and anxiety to show up here. And so if we can look at resource allocation and investments as a college and as a district in supporting more enhanced mental health services and wellness support for our students, that would be ideal, and help demystify access and participating in a service like talk therapy or a service like group therapy, and normalize, if you will, like create a culture around it's okay to be not okay. We see that in the county. We see that in our municipalities right now, city and county and state, and to help elevate that message if we haven't already, just look at a campaign utilizing communication levers here at the college and across the district that support health and wellness as a success metric. You know, it's similar to our basic needs. Our students can't study if they haven't had a good night's sleep or had their first meal. Similarly, for students who want to be successful in and out of our classrooms, it's really difficult when there isn't a safe or brave space to unpack or discuss trauma or unresolved trauma or hurt, or like I missed my bus this morning, just a place to go and sit down and take a load off and have a conversation about the pressures of moment to moment. And so I think there's an opportunity for us as a college community to embrace health and wellness as evidence that there's need to support how we're doing in these times. And one of the ways to demystify that is just the conversation and the popularization of having it be available and us making it part of our process. So, for example, I oversee professional development, and I also have led leadership development and institutes, along with workshops across employee groups. And one of the most recent opportunities we had for a workshop was bringing a clinical psychologist to our campus to host in-person and hybrid, so it was live with a Zoom option. Dr. Rogers led a workshop for classified professionals on mindfulness in our day-to-day work, and also repeated that for faculty and customized and tailored it for faculty. She held 3 sessions for both, and then 2 sessions for management. And it was an opportunity for us to learn new language, new skills, new tools, or enhance if we already have a mindfulness practice, that it's all right to build it into our day-to-day and to take time out, move away from the screen, stand up, sit down, all are parts of health and wellness that don't necessarily need to be talk therapy, but talk therapy is also important. And so the evolution of this series across employee groups also evolved into coaching. So she'll be providing drop-in office hours for coaching when for our different employee groups, one day a month as needed. And then similarly, we held a training with another clinical psychologist who's a consultant who offered opportunities for de-escalation training and leadership and embedded health and wellness, mental health services and wellness. And so while our students need it, we also recognize our campus community is also going through a process of healing and part of a similar journey. And our students, even now more than ever, are needing greater access to mental health services and wellness. And we need to be able to think about ways to be creative, to fund innovative practices and be responsive, not only for crisis management, but also day-to-day supporting students who may be experiencing stress, anxiety, the pressures of day-to-day while going to school, remote and in person. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Neva Bandolo. I'm the director of the California Early Childhood Mentor Program that's housed here at Chabot College. On campus here, we have our early childhood lab school, as well as, of course, our early childhood program where students earn their certificates and degrees, and we have the mentor program. Unfortunately, we have many, many people leaving the field of early childhood. It is creating a workforce shortage. I would like to know, as your role as president, what would you do to strengthen the efforts that our early childhood entities I just mentioned are coming together in collaboration in an effort to increase early childhood student enrollment and ready the workforce?
Yes, that's a great, important question, and timely as well. And I'll just sort of dovetail with the previous response. Burnout is real. You know, our early childhood education practitioners, child care centers, employees are underpaid and under-resourced and experience higher rates of burnout, much like K-12 and higher ed professionals, quite frankly. So I think that knowing the conditions and the environment that we're in, and that there's some advocacy at the federal and state and local level to invest in early childhood educators, we want to be present for that discussion. So as president, I would want to have opportunities to engage in conversations with policymakers and stakeholders that are helping to advocate for advanced funding, supporting credentialing, and supporting opportunities for public and private partnerships. We know child development centers on our college campuses closed down. They've reemerged in this last year and a half, and in that revitalization, there have been some new creative partnerships. Albina Head Start received a boost of funding federally, so there may be an opportunity to partner with our local, or if we don't have one, create a local partnership with Head Start. I'm sorry, Albina's from where I grew up. Head Start is the federal name, but Albina's the one that I supported when I was executive dean at a previous institution, so thanks. Drawing on that experience, Head Start could have a place at Chabot College, along with working closely with a provider in the neighborhood or in the area that we haven't worked with before, and also develop a pipeline for early childhood educators and create ways to enhance the lab. There are federal dollars to support early childhood education, so I would want to pull together with a grants management group or a grant writing team that includes you to think about ways in which we could anticipate requests for proposals and be ready for the opportunity to apply and submit and build capacity for our existing center, our development center. And then also think of ways that this could be a student, parent, family-centered space. And so when it's not in use for lab and training future early childhood educators, it's also a place where students and employees maybe could have drop-in opportunities to bring their children when childcare is limited in the community. So I think there's a way to think about a family-student center, family-student-parent center that's also supported by any federal or state dollars that we would pursue.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I was waiting for you to say, time is up. My name is Christine Herrera, and I'm the Senior Administrative Assistant in the President's Office. My question, as a confidential, supervisors and confidentials are not and do not have union representation. As our leader, President, how will you support and guide the confidentials and supervisors that come to you with issues or concerns, and specifically for those in your office?
Yes. Yes, well, that's my role. As president, my door will be open to hear and listen to you and hear your concerns and the concerns of the area. And there's ways to problem solve and address and be responsive that doesn't have to require being part of a protected class or labor union representation. If we think about human relations and communications, my undergraduate was in communication studies, having a conversation in many ways is one way to resolve whatever conflict is happening. So that would require active listening for understanding, finding out what the needs are, what your needs are, what's a reasonable request or response to address a concern, and then work to problem solve with you, with me, with my team in a way that helps to meet or address the conflict. So it's a form of conflict resolution that's facilitated by dialogue that may not happen in one conversation, but maybe a series, and we try out solutions. And that's what we would maybe call address at the informal level, address one-on-one together in community. If issues or concerns escalate, then we look to our policy, practice, and procedures for guidance and for next steps and for following up with the safeguards that are in place to address conflict. But I think any care and concern starts with a conversation to find out what's going on. How's it going? What do you need? How can I help? And that we're in this together, and then think about, too, ways in which the structure or the system can also have an avenue for employees that are not part of a collective bargaining group. And then for those that come with concerns or feedback, being able to also have a similar process where it's addressed informally, one-on-one, and then look to the collective bargaining agreements for guidance to move through a process and to seek consult and assistance as needed. If I'm unable to resolve it one-on-one with you or with others, then I would seek consult as well and ask for assistance and support to be able to help problem solve and come up with a remedy or a solution that is amenable to you and to all parties that might be involved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dio, how are we doing on time? Because if I've had an opportunity to ask questions. I see my colleagues over there who haven't, so I'd be willing to concede my time.
Were you asking for how much time we had left?
Yes.
We have 10 minutes left.
Okay. All right, then I'll go ahead and ask the question. Huh? What's that? Okay, all right. I will concede. We'll go ahead and just turn it over there. Okay.
Thanks, Dr. Bobby. Chabot is a proud Hispanic serving institution campus, and we currently have an HSI STEM grant. As in your role, how have you or how would you embrace and cultivate a campus-wide HSI identity and work to fully institutionalize our current HSI STEM grant services and programs?
Yes, thank you. And first, congratulations on receiving the STEM grant. It's awesome. So I've been at 2 HSIs. The first HSI I worked at was as an executive dean of student development and learning resources, which is equivalent to a chief student services officer in Salem, Oregon at Chemeketa Community College. And we were going through the designation process and participating. And what struck me then in 2014, was that this is institutional capacity building, capacity development, right? We know that now, but back then it was emerging, burgeoning. And today I follow the inspiration and guidance of Gina Ann Garcia, who is stellar in this field. And if you haven't heard her speak, maybe we've brought her, right? Chabot College would maybe like to bring her. If we haven't brought her, she would be a phenomenal academic scholar, activist to bring to campus to provide us with a roadmap and some guidance on how to institutionalize and build capacity as a Hispanic serving institution. And so my early days, nearly 10 years ago to now, it is beyond the designation. It's beyond receiving the STEM 5-year grant or the 5-year Title V, which both institutions now have. And it's really about how being an HSI designation means we all benefit from the roadmap that HSI designation and the RFPs have laid out for us, so that the institution is really breathing life into serving and developing and serving our communities, so that we're all better practitioners for our community members that are Latina, Latino, Latinx, and all of our community members who engage with the Latino, Latina, Latinx community members. So what that might look like as we dream, we would be dreaming together. We would take inspiration from Dr. Garcia. We would take inspiration from our students and our community members and the middle school next door. I mean, we would take inspiration, and then we would look at our own roadmap of the educational master plan, our strategic plan, our mission critical priorities, and embed. That could look like an additional mural. That could be bilingual signage, which exists already, but more bilingual signage. That could be an target for increasing the number of Latinx identified faculty, staff, administrators. That could be also an enhancement in our enrollment for more Latino students, Latina students in STEM. And in particular, then maybe Latina students in physics, more concretely. So I think that we would see and feel it differently, and it would just be our existence. So it starts with designation. We need to acknowledge and advance and advocate, and then also pursue opportunities to build capacity, which builds capacity for academic disciplines like science, technology, engineering, and math that will also influence arts, English, humanities, communications, et cetera. And then also go out for further opportunities for building capacity with grants, and then look at ways in which the institution can support through resource allocation or resource development allocation to sustain the STEM grant beyond its lifespan, and any future grants we get beyond its lifespan, so that it's embedded and it is part of Chabot College's DNA, and it's in the makeup of us. And for those of us that don't identify as Latino, Latina, Latinx, we are better prepared to serve a population that's here, that's going to continue to grow. Their generations are going to follow. And so we get to be part of breaking barriers and leading in innovation as an HSI through our work and through our partnership with allies and colleagues who also want to see our Latino students excel and succeed and improve their communities after graduation and with their careers. So, thanks. Such great questions, and
I
really appreciate the time.
recognize that-
Yeah.
I recognize that we may have more questions than time. We do have time for one more question before moving on to closing remarks.
All right. Good afternoon. I'm Brian Good, Director of Research Planning, Institutional Effectiveness. Could you please describe a time where you led organizational or cultural change? What was your process, and what did you learn from that?
Yes. There have been many times. I'll just describe now, maybe more recently. Organizational change is something that has been in our system of higher ed for quite some time, and it was accelerated in 2020. So we're responding, but many of us who have been in higher ed, for however many generations we've been in higher ed, or if it's our first generation in higher ed, and if we've been in diversity, equity, inclusion, social justice, and anti-racism work, we know that this has been the moment we've been waiting for. It took a global pandemic and public racial injustices and an environmental climate crisis to respond and to force organizations and those of us in it to also advance our mission-critical priorities as DEIJ advocates, as sustainability and climate warriors, as academics in HSI, STEM, counseling, whatever field that we're in. This has been an opportunity for all of us to engage and participate in organizational change. So one example is this division that I oversee. As Vice President of Student Services, I adopted and developed and drafted and authored and brought around to the participatory shared governance groups and Senate an equity-minded decision-making document for budget management. We were faced with a 4% reduction, and Student Services, as we know, well, in my institution, I don't want to speak for us here, but in my experience in Student Services, we have been under-resourced and had some vacancies. So we knew we were going to face some pretty significant reductions. So that was clear. But what was unclear is how we make those reductions. So an organizational change effort was introducing a process that provided a framework that incorporated shared language, working communication agreements, some reflective questions, and design principles that centered racial equity and community building to be able to be in community together to make these difficult decisions, and also prioritize reductions and restorations. Luckily for us, the 4%, we went unscathed, and it came out of general operating dollars. So like us here, like you all here, we first removed travel and some other things, and so we did not have to reduce our temporary classified professional team at all during this time. We were able to redeploy. And the document now has been adopted in this division. And so it's because of that work that I was appointed the inaugural Vice President of Institutional Equity to champion college-wide organizational change and planning related to our DEI social justice commitment and our anti-racism work, while also weaving it through our college strategic planning process. So I've experienced organizational change at the executive level. In my role as VP-IE and Research and Planning, I designed the organizational structure, was able to develop and draft new positions, we were pursuing grants, the grants were funded. So really being able to work in tandem with exec team, my college president, and our participatory shared governance process remote to be able to advance organizational change and create a division, unlike any other division in the district, to really advance our college planning work with a DEI framework and focus. And the equity-minded decision-making guidance document still exists today. We use it now. I've tri-chaired 2 branch committees as part of our participatory shared governance structure. And as the tri-chair administrator for the institutional effectiveness group, we've adopted the equity-minded decision-making principles into our work for onboarding, recruiting, and retaining IE committee members and advancing our IE work. So it's infusing organizational change and sort of tenets of our work through this process. And so I've experienced it kind of high level, also within staffing and within budgets, and have managed a variety of different types of budgets as part of organizational change. And then with that comes professional development and leadership development, so that we also have the muscle to engage long-term in our racial equity work and strategic planning and organizational change work. It's not a one and done, but it is long-term and beyond us. So, thank you.
Thank you. This concludes this portion of the forum. I want to appreciate those of you that came forward to ask a question. Apologies to those who were not able to ask your question. Before we conclude today's forum, we invite you to provide a brief closing statement. There are 5 minutes allotted for this time.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for the really insightful, intentional questions and time together. And thank you for staying. I know that it's a full couple of days, and just to really appreciate your engagement and the opportunity for me to engage with you. I think that Chabot College and the Chabot Las Positas Community College District is a very special place. I know from my short time here last week and this week, I'm being able to be on campus, both visits and exploring and learning more about the college environment, you all, your innovative work, and the district. There is a rich history and heritage here of education, consciousness raising, critical understanding of the impact diversity, equity, inclusion, and anti-racism and social justice has on our own experience and the experience of our students to complete their degrees and transfer or enter into career fields or both and serve their communities to improve the world that we live in. And that's what inspires me most about being here with you and being on campus. And as I start to learn and figure out more about the great work that's happening here, it is a place that I want to call home, and that I believe my family and I would want to be here and be with your community and be part of your community to lead into the next level or next era, if you will, of Chabot College. The campus is going through transition. All of us are experiencing tremendous transition as we've had to adapt and adjust to remote and in-person and hybrid, and now predominantly in-person with some hybrid. And I just know that it's not easy, and it's hard work, and it's also heart work, and it's work that I'm prepared to do in community with you and want to be a part of championing the mission, vision, values, and critical priorities of Chabot College. And greatly appreciate the time to be with you today, and hope that I continue on in the process and have an opportunity to see you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Olivares, for your interest in this role at Chabot College, for spending this last hour with us. I want to just remind the audience that the feedback forms will be available online through Sunday, May 21st at 11:59 p.m. That's when it will close. And you'll receive an email with the link by tomorrow morning at the latest. So with that, please join me again in thanking Dr. Olivares.